Hello. Tonight on Turtle Talk, we thought it might be fun to relate our personal experiences and why we are into the paranormal.
We'd also really like to hear your stories too. This can be considered a start of a journey of everyone sharing experiences.
What was your first paranormal experience, you guys, out there in our audience? We always like to hear what spurs on people's interest in the paranormal and why or why not you believe in spirits. And we were just talking now, and we determined that although I'm 4 years younger than Mark, that he probably had the first paranormal experience, the earliest out of the two of us.
If I might say, that might include being born.
Yeah. Oh, yes. You were born under very strange circumstances.
Yeah, it was 10 o'clock at night. It was in Nantwich, and I think it was called the Barony Hospital. It got pulled down after I was born. I presume they'd done the best work, therefore They could just pull the thing down. But anyway, yeah, so it got knocked down. It was 10 o'clock at night. There was a thunderstorm going on when I entered the world. But it was a very laboured delivery, and they had to use forceps on me. And that trauma may have been something that shaped perhaps interest, or even you might say abilities. I don't say abilities, but some kind of psychic awareness.
Well, and Mum told me that both she and you were very near death.
Yes, we were. And they do say that's a bit of a trait on some of these things. I don't rely on gifts. I don't say I've got any gifts, but I do certainly had some experiences that make me wonder.
Dude.
But I'm not going to self-elevate is what I'm saying. I'm not.
Well, I'll elevate you then because I think it's interesting, and we'll do that when we get to that point.
Okay.
So another thing is that you have ancestry that have apparently psychic abilities, including your mom.
Yeah.
And wasn't there one far back, like a great aunt or something that...
Yeah, there's a story. I'll have to check with my mother about this. It's a relative anyway, about 100 years ago. And when she died, she had 7 different faces on her as she passed away. Some were good, some were evil looking,
Was
apparently.
it just like her face kept changing? Or?
Yes, morphing
to
the people that were watching her die. Very strange experience.
Mum told me that story. So, yeah, that's what she told me as well.
To start with, the first house we moved into was called Paranormal Cottage in Weaveham, in Cheshire in England. And that place was apparently haunted. There were some stories from there, like my gran from Australia came over. She was sleeping on the couch downstairs, and she heard someone coming down the stairs in the middle of the night. And she noticed that they didn't come into the room, they didn't walk through where she was, they didn't go into the kitchen, anything like that. There was just no more noise. She was a bit confused. But anyway, in the morning, she asked me, Dad, who came down last night? Because I was just wondering, because I didn't hear them go back up again. And he said, no, nobody came down the stairs. So that was one of the stories there.
Was there something about a fire being lit, a fireplace, or maybe I think?
No, I think that's related to the burning smell that you of wet clothes. It can be related to the paranormal. I've had that happen a couple of times.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. Later on, yes, we went on holiday to Morchard Bishop in Devon, and it's an old house with a thatched roof from about 1700 or somewhere. And we walked in, my mum put the kettle on and she made herself a cup of tea while my dad was bringing the things in, and they went to open the closet thing for the electric meter to see what was on it, and there was nothing. There was no there was no electricity even switched on.
I don't think what Americans understand as much as British people do is the kettle, which is they boil their water in an electric kettle.
Yeah.
So in order to get water for the tea that Mum was making, she had to have used electric.
Yeah, use the electric. And also, there is that side people might not know that in Britain it's quite common, especially for rented houses or for apartments, to have a little meter that you put money into to turn the electric on for a certain amount of time. You can use a certain amount of power. So in our case, it's normally a 50p piece.
Oh, I know. When I first called you over in England, you'd say, hold the phone, I have to go put some money in the meter. And I was like, what? And I'm thinking you're running down to the end of the block. There's a general meter.
No.
I have no idea what this is about.
So there's no bill. You just put your 50p in. But of course it relates to you get less power than you would if you had a standard bill, I would expect.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But you could also work out how long a 50p was going to last you, and then you could make sure things weren't switched on, or if you're particularly flush, you could turn other things on.
Yeah.
If you just got paid or whatever, you just don't care, and off it goes. But towards the end of the month, you're switching things off based on how many pence you've got left.
Yeah.
But that's anyway. That's
and
a
again,
by.
for Americans, what there is a meter with a coin slot in the house that a gentleman or a lady comes around and collects the money from the meter.
Yes.
Is it monthly?
No, it used to be far less regular than that. Every 3 or 4 months or something, you get a knock at the door and this guy would walk in and take a load of money. But, I mean, it did work for them, but I've often thought that, if somebody knew how to make one of the keys for them, they could put a suit on of some type with a cap.
Sure, clipboard.
Have a clipboard, that's it. Maybe a high visibility vest.
Wandering Turnip.
Wandering Turnip. Have you ever seen his
go.
channel? He does that sometimes. That's it. No one's going to ask you any questions, are they, if you've got a high visibility vest on and a clipboard?
Right.
No one's interested.
And you could even get like a little clip-on name tag.
You go anywhere. You go anywhere.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, that's a by the by.
Yeah.
What else has happened? Well, before I was born, Mum saw a cigar-shaped UFO in the sky. Remember her telling me that one? And also, before I was born, she was driving with my dad in the car, and she projected herself outside onto the hood of the car and looked in on herself and watched the conversation between herself and my dad. If you think about it, if she's watching the conversation, how the heck is she doing that when she's talking to me dad?
Meta.
That is bilocation stuff there.
Yeah.
Very strange.
And observing yourself having this conversation and knowing what the thoughts are behind the conversation that you're having, and
while
that's
also
what I'm saying. It's meta. It's like the 11th string for the 11 dimensions that's looking down on everything else that's happening.
Yeah. So that's rather fascinating stuff. Anyway, moving along.
I guess I would be next because I was 18.
Oh, okay.
When I had this experience, I moved into a haunted dorm room at Moorhead State University, which is now Minnesota University at Moorhead. What would happen is my roommate and I would be in the room and we'd be trying to study or something. And the people upstairs, it was just pounding on the floor constantly. So she went upstairs to tell the people, we're trying to study, can you hold it down? And nobody was home upstairs. Same with people on either side of us. And then right next to me, I could hear this ticking in the wall, like somebody pulling those old light chains, how the sound it makes when you click a light on?
Yes.
Yeah, and we went and told our RA, that's a resident assistant, that we were getting these things happening. And we asked her, have you ever heard anything about this? Mm-hmm. She said, no, but come get me when it's happening again, okay? And later on, she had gone on a retreat with the other RAs and the housing director. And she said the housing director, this is the RA now, said the housing director asked her if anybody was having any strange incidents on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
And the RA forgot about us then, but she said, no, I don't think so. And the housing director said, well, and she said my roommate's room.
Yeah.
A girl had unalived herself a few years ago, and there had been reports that that room had incidents of haunting. Now, the accumulation of this is that Beth, my roommate, was at her desk, and above her desk and above my desk, how dorm rooms are all mirrored, so both have equal.
I didn't know that, but it makes sense.
Yeah, shelves above. And she said the very first thing she put on her shelf, and she told me this after it happened, was this cute purple and pink unicorn plaque.
Okay.
She put back there. Back in the corner of the thing. And she's typing, and I took this into consideration. She was typing a paper. Remember, this is back in 84.
So an actual typewriter?
Yeah, this was back in 84, and I knew one kid at college that had a computer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. 2. I'm sorry, Joe had one too.
Bet they were Commodore 64s or PETs or something.
I don't recall.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
They were ones we all borrowed to do our reports on. And I'm laying on my bed, that's kind of kitty corner from where she's sitting on her desk, so across the room in the opposite corner. All of a sudden, that plaque that she put on there first came flying off up over her head and landed in the middle of the room.
Wow.
And we were just like, holy cow, how did that happen?
Sure, so even if it fell, it just tumbled.
If it tumbled, it would have landed on top of the typewriter where she was typing.
Yeah.
This went over her head and landed in the middle of the room.
That's good. Well, it's bad in a way. Scary.
It was interesting, After that, I got married, and my ex and I moved into that little house in Moorhead.
Okay.
And right after we got married, we had this other friend who got married as well, and she was finishing up a quarter at the college across the river, and her husband had to go back and run their cattle farm. So she stayed with us during her quarter, and her husband was up there. Anyway, she had a key, of course, and I remember one time I was taking a shower, and you can see the from back door from my shower, the back thing open is all open, floor plan. And I heard the back door open. So I get out of the shower and I peek through the door, and sure enough, the door is cracked open this far. I thought, oh, geez.
A couple of inches, you just described.
Oh, yeah, for the people in the back.
People watching in black and white, the red is behind the blue. Yeah.
Yeah, it was open a couple inches, and I thought, oh gosh, I bet you Trish forgot to lock it or something, and it blew open, because this was winter. When she came home, I asked her, I said, Trish, do you remember locking the door when you left? She said, oh yeah. I said, it was open when I came home. She said, no. She said, that happened to me when you left one time.
Oh, wow.
I came home and the door was open. And we both grabbed a butcher knife and stocked the house. So we were getting stuff then. I had weird things happen. Like I was taking trash out and doing a big clean of the basement. So take one bag out. And my door was one of those locks that you can turn it on the inside and it'll still be locked on the outside. But I was going out to haul the garbage out, and so I made sure that I unlocked the door so I could open it from the outside. Throw the garbage in the trash can. I have like 5-10 steps to the trash can to throw the garbage in there. Turn around, come back, and the door is locked. Go find the key where I hide it in the garage, open the door, let myself in, grab another bag of garbage, make darn sure that door is unlocked so I can get back through. Put the key back up in the garage, put the trash away, go back in the house, and the door is locked.
No.
Go back to the garage, get the key, open the door. Finally, the third time, it didn't lock on me.
Makes you want to put the key under the floor mat, really, doesn't it? Right next to the door.
Right. Where everybody can find it.
Well, yeah, true.
And then nothing happened until I moved back. After the divorce, I moved back to that house in Moorhead.
So, hang on a minute. So at some point you were renting it out?
Yes, well, we bought another house in Fargo, a bigger house, because we had a kid.
But did the renters say anything about anything that might have happened there? Or was it just never brought up?
The renter was probably too far off her head to tell you the truth, to know if anything was going on.
I catch your drift.
Things I found out after I took the house back were horrendous. So the next time would probably be around the same time you were starting to have experiences again. Because I moved back in that house in 97.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's when I got divorced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've just lit some anti-mosquito candles with cloves in them, yeah. Just crush the cloves up and put them in.
So that brings us to 97 or so. We both got divorced in that year, ironically.
Yeah.
And you moved into a flat where you were having experiences.
Well, there was a couple of things, yes. One time I heard my name called from the kitchen. I wanted to be about 10 feet away, say. And it was definitely Mark. And it was in the voice of my wife's deceased mother. She'd not been dead too long. It was definitely her voice. It was definitely a call out, as though she was calling me. And the interesting side to this was, I think it was the night before, I had a dream. And in that dream there was a corridor. And there was a room with its light on. And that was my room.
But the rest of the corridor was dark.
Yes, and the thought was that
it's like a corridor with doors on either side, and one door is open with the light coming on.
That's right.
Okay.
And that was my door. That was where I was. So it seemed to me that she's walked down this corridor to check out that light and then come and inquired, what did I want? And like I say, that was the night before this happened. Very, very strange. Another one was, it used to happen a few times, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd hear pacing in that kitchen, forwards and backwards and forwards and backwards, and it would go on, and I was really confused at what it was. I presumed it was next door. But when I listened intently, well, you spook yourself out when you realise it's actually from your own flat.
Yeah.
So I mentioned this to the previous occupant years. And that guy told me he'd been coming off drugs at the time, and he would pace up and down that kitchen in the middle of the night, and I went, you are kidding.
Energy drop.
Yep, I was hearing that memory. I was hearing what must have been soaked, presumably, into the fabric of his traumatic time, walking forwards and backwards when he's coming off drugs. Absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So also another thing that happened at the flat, there are a couple. I went to a cemetery and I saw a gravestone of a young lad called Thomas. And I'm pondering, as you do sometimes, you might go to a cemetery and look at a grave and it's kind of, you wonder about the person's life. And he's only some young lad, he said died at 9 years old or something like this on the gravestone. And I came home and I remember thinking at the time, oh well, it was worth me going there just to pay respects really. Well then I heard some kids in the walkway kind of thing between the rows of houses. And one of these kids shouted out, Thomas is dead. And I went, what? I was in the bathroom at the time and I heard Thomas is dead. And I thought, well, they could have been talking about their friend or whatever.
What a queen.
I even presumed it could have been an auditory hallucination of mine. They definitely said Thomas is dead. So that was another weird one.
Do you find when you go to cemeteries that you're drawn to certain graves?
Yes, and you ponder and you reflect and you look at them. Yes, I guess I've always thought most people do.
Yeah.
You just kind of, you just get drawn to one or two and focus on them maybe, and you read them and the messages that are on there.
Yeah. You get kind of an impression of what they're, or maybe it's just a fantasy that you're dreaming up in your head about them, but
Another one of that flat, just to end with on my side of this, was, and we mentioned it earlier, the smell of damp clothes next to an electric fire. If you've ever smelt that very dank, weird, burning smell, and I've had that a couple of times. I got that at Marbury Hall on the right-hand side where the kitchens were, and it seemed that's where a fire had happened, I don't know when, 1920 or somewhere, or even earlier than that.
That wet woolen mitten smell on a burner, I can smell that.
It is, yeah.
Because going ice skating in the winter, and you go into the heating shack, and you always take those, you got your wet mittens with snowballs on it, because you're playing in the snow and stuff, and put it on there, and you get that wool wet smell.
Yes, it's a very well defined smell, distinctive, yes, when you do smell it. So I'd say, that's around about 2000 then for me.
Well, I moved back to that house in Moorhead after the divorce, and I recall one night I had cleaned the kitchen up. I mean, I mopped the floors, cleaned the cupboards, all this kind of stuff, put everything away, and it was sparkling when I was done.
Makes you feel good.
Yeah. And everything was clean and pristine and beautiful, put away. And when I woke up the next morning, one of the cups that I had washed was upside down in the middle of the kitchen floor.
And there's no way you could get there.
Not without me hearing it fall.
And that.
Yeah. And another time I was, I had my computer in my tiny little bedroom, and right across the hall was Katie's room. And I could hear her talking, and I thought, okay, she's just trying to settle herself down to sleep here. And it started getting kind of late, and I was just breathing in to say, Katie, let's settle down, get to sleep.
That's your daughter.
Yeah. And she, as I'm breathing in, she yells, Mom, could you be quiet? I'm trying to get to sleep. And I said, Katie, I heard something else too. And she said, I heard somebody trying to come in the back door.
Really?
And luckily it was winter.
This is the same back door that keeps opening and closing?
Yes. And luckily it was winter, because I was able to go, and I saw no footsteps on the back steps. So
that's true, yeah, because Minnesota's normally giving you a good clue there with snowfall.
Oh, yeah. If it's not snow prints outside, it's tracked snow
prints inside.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my.
Right. Oh, and then you and I started chatting. And, well, you have some between then, because you told me about some stuff that you had, like when you and Sandra and the girls had gone to Marbury and you got that EVP.
Yeah, definite Class A. She's still on the phone. And that was Sandra was on the phone to a friend of hers, I think. And that one came across. And then there was...
the pool?
Stop going on about bloody school or something was shouted that we just definitely didn't hear at the time. And it seemed to come from the pool area of Marbury Hall, which had been shut for 80 years or something.
Donks years, yeah.
Yeah, but it was kids at the pool. So there were several events there, several psychic impressions too about the horse that was apparently buried there. So many things that... Marbury itself is a place where they have to get used to you. You have to spend an amount of time there. So if you see, everybody sees these investigations where they go for a couple of hours somewhere. They expect to get some lights flickering or a couple of EVPs. Marbury is definitely not like that. Not normally.
Marbury Hall is not there.
Yeah, it got knocked down in the
torn
60s.
down.
Yeah, it got knocked down in the 60s. It was ruined really by, well, lack of maintenance, but also American troops who came over in World War II. And they were driving half-tracks down the stairs and things. It was not cared for at all.
Ridiculous, yeah.
So that hall got knocked down in the 60s, but it was quite the local feature in the Northwich area.
And Mark has studied that, so he knows where the kitchen was. He knows where the fire started. And his knowledge also relates to something that happened to me there. Because I came to meet you October 19th of 2005, and I remember that because it was 2 days after my 40th birthday.
That's right. I never met you when you were in your 30s. Well, I did online.
Yeah. Oh, well, while we were talking online, though, there was that night that we had just got done talking, and I had all the lights out in the house except for the bathroom. And
Your bathroom features again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't in the bathroom, but this is walking towards the bathroom, into the bathroom light, and off to the left is the kitchen. And again, it's that wide open floor pan, so I'm not looking through any doorways or anything. But they're in the kitchen next to the stove. And I realized this when I got into the bathroom and closed the door. Just wait a minute. I just saw a man in my kitchen.
Yeah.
And it was a guy with like short sandy brown hair, a lumberjack shirt, the red and black check lumberjack shirt, work jeans and boots, tan boots, work boots. And I've never seen the impression of a person before, and this just blew my mind.
So that was your first ghost sighting?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And Mark came over to stay with me, and it took me about 2 weeks to tell him. And I said, I don't understand why I haven't told you this, because we met understanding the paranormal, or we met because we're interested in the paranormal. I said,
we met on the paranormal website.
Yeah.
Not a dating site or anything.
Right. We were on a paranormal forum and we met each other. 2 weeks after Mark moved in with me, I said, honey, I saw a man in the kitchen. And Mark says to me, you mean the guy with the sandy brown hair, the red lumberjack shirt, the jeans, and work boots? He described this dude to me, and he got the impression that his name was Mitch. And my house was built by my next-door neighbor's brother, and she lived there for a time during World War II. So she knew the history of that place, and I asked her if anybody had ever died in that house, and she said no, but there was a man who was very abusive to his wife. And, of course, my first wasn't the peachiest dude in the world, so I think all that negative energy was just building up to something. And the other thing, when the voices and stuff, Katie was of the age going through puberty. I had just lost a job, so the energy in the house was probably pretty messed up. Another thing that happened was after I had gotten fired from this job, I remember I was sitting in the recliner in the living room, and I'm watching John Mellencamp live on request, because big John Mellencamp fan. And I had my cat Cougar sitting on my lap. Cougar. And all of a sudden, I've got the blinds closed in my house. I'm a depressed person. I lost my job. Got the blinds down. I'm wrapped up in a big blanket. Got cat on my lap. All of a sudden, this big black orb, the shape of like an oblong, a tic-tac, I guess, came from the kitchen, went flying over my head across the ceiling and down the other side behind the couch. And Cougar jumped off my lap and went scratching behind the couch to find that thing. So I wasn't the only one who saw it.
Like a cat laser kind of thing.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one who'd seen that. And that's what I find interesting a lot. I've had my college roommate as a witness with me. I've had my friend who lived with us as a witness with me. I've had my daughter as a witness with me. I've even had my cat as a witness with me.
Yes, indeed.
And there's only been very few things, a couple things that has happened where I haven't had somebody with.
Right, next along, I think would be possibly
Avebury.
Oh gosh, Avebury, yeah. Oh, Avebury had some weird stuff.
Oh,
you felt
wild.
What's it called? Sucker punch.
Well, when I was just walking right when I entered the stone circle, Avebury is a town, the only town, isn't it? Totally within a Stonehenge.
Within a stone circle.
Yeah, and by the way, this is about 20 miles north of Stonehenge itself. But the second I crossed the line through those stones, I felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. I leaned over and it didn't hurt so much as it knocked on the window, but it was enough to push me over, bend over forward, double. That night, we were staying at the Red Lion Inn, which is the only public house in a stone circle. And we were in the pub, and Mark had his ale, and I had soda water and orange juice.
Yeah, you don't drink at all.
I don't drink at all. And we're sitting there talking, and all of a sudden, I felt like I was getting drunk off my butt. And my head was so woozy, I had to put my head down on the table. And all of a sudden, I didn't quite feel the same anymore, and I was feeling another person there. And Mark asked, he said, "What is your name? Is your name Thomas?" And I said, "No, it's Robert." Robert. And he said, "Why are you here, Robert?" And I said, "My wife died." And the impression I was getting was that I was a man in his early 60s with like a buzz cut haircut, one of those flat golfer hats called a tam, canvas work jacket and work boots, like
Feel like a farmer kind of character.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the impression I got was that he was a pauper and a farm laborer, and his wife had died, and he lived near Avebury. So when Mark and I met, he had started Spirited Investigations already, and we had some other people who belonged to it, and
message board. It had about 200 members. About 200 members on the message board. Yeah.
This is back in 2005. Maybe kids don't understand what was going on the computer 2005, but message boards were the thing. So there was a gal in our group that said she was doing ancestry research on her family in Scotland, and she'd gladly peek down in Avebury to see if she can find anything out about this. And she said, "What time should I look for?" And I said, "It's got to be between the 1860 and 1870 census. I'm really feeling that." So she looked in there, and she came up with 3 Roberts. The first Robert had 2 kids and a wife. That wasn't him. The second Robert had some other thing that disqualified him. But the third Robert Titcomb, was a pauper, a farm worker. He lived with his father. In the 1860 census, he had a wife. In the 1870 census, he did not. Farm worker, I said, pauper.
Worked in Avebury?
Pardon?
Did he work in Avebury?
Yeah, he was from Avebury, and he worked outside the farm, on a farm. But everything matched up so much, I honestly think, and it's so, because I am not woo-woo. I realize I have some gifts, but I don't go all purple robe and that with it. But
Purple hair, but not purple robe.
Purple hair, but no robe. I do believe I channeled somebody that night.
Or he channeled you, if you see it that way around.
Yeah.
The conditions
that door
are
was
right.
open.
Yeah,
that door in the hallway.
He needed to express some part of his grief through somebody else, maybe.
Yeah.
Or you were sat exactly where he used to sit.
No, the impression I got was he was in a stool in the corner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then, as we got up to go up to our room, I'm still feeling woozy, and I'm not walking straight across that floor. But by the time we got up to the room, I was fine.
And was it the next night with the group of Druids?
No, that was the second trip there.
Oh, the second trip there. Well, the second trip there, then.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. The other thing that happened was when you took me to Marbury, and we were walking around the grounds, and you said this area is the garden, and my legs started suddenly, I could hardly stand. My legs were so jiggly. And I took a few more steps. I stepped out on the road, and I started bawling, just crying. And Mark's daughter was saying, "Julie, are you okay?" And I said, "This isn't mine." I just kept saying, "This isn't mine. This isn't me. I'm fine. This isn't me." So I was picking up something that triggered me like that. And then Mark tells me that back in the day, the lady of the house and a stable boy were having an affair.
I don't know if it's a stable boy.
Anyway, she used a tunnel to go meet this lover, and her husband caught her down in the tunnel and killed her there.
So the story
And I was
goes.
standing on top of the tunnel.
Yeah.
And then we went to Manchester, and I just had this weird feeling that there was a clan war there, and I'm talking old kilt and druid clan, way back in the day.
Couple of 1,000 years type of stuff.
Not thousands, I say maybe 1,500.
Okay.
1,000 or so, but like the William Wallace type day, but not that war or anything. This was, it was even farther back than that, I'd say. But I just felt like there was something going, a clan clash in that area, and I started coughing and I couldn't stop.
Not sponsored by Clash of Clans.
And then you came to live with me.
And then...
No,
we're going to the second one. We'll save about the second trip.
Yeah.
And then return to Avebury happened a year or so later.
Mm-hmm.
And we met those druids. And I think, what was it? They'd just been to the funeral of their...
There were 3 gentlemen.
Yes.
And they had been to the funeral of their high priest, had died that night.
That's right.
But prior to us meeting them, we had gone for a walk out through Avebury at night, and we went down this one road, and Mark got this big feeling of a presence, and I did not want to go down there. I said,
that's true. I remember that now.
And you tell them what you told the druids.
What, about the guy?
About that road.
Oh, I can't remember.
Oh, they said that was where the ancient priest had his set up for worship. They didn't have like a temple, but when they did altars and they had worship.
It was down that road.
Was the high priest, that was his area back in, ancient times.
What I do remember is back at the pub, and we all sat in a circle drinking away. And I said to them, well, you want to be high priest, but you won't be able to if you don't stop looking at porn sites on your computer.
And the guy's jaw just dropped.
His jaw dropped, he went white-faced, ashen, and he's fully realised I've spoke the truth to him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was something to do with his wife finding the porn or something like this. I can't quite recall now. But he was going to have a lot of bother that would stop him, because that would become common knowledge and he wouldn't be able to become the high priest.
Sure.
And that guy was mortified with that information because it was spot on. Poor chap.
Yeah. I also recall the one from Birmingham.
Oh,
that
yeah.
I said, I know you.
Uh-huh.
And he looked at me and he says, how do you know me? I said, I saw you on the Discovery Channel at the summer solstice celebration at Stonehenge. And he said, well, I wasn't interviewed, but I was there. And I know I'd seen that guy.
Huh.
And it was just like a kinship. You know?
Yeah.
He gave me a big hug when I went up to bed and
Yeah.
said goodbye. I think about him every once in a while. That was a really cool experience meeting those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you say, if you're on the kind of same wavelength at the time, that works out.
Mm-hmm.
There's your kinship thing, but maybe there's other experiences, shared experiences you don't even know about.
Other lifetimes.
Lifetime stuff,
Yeah. And then when you came to live with me, we started the experiments in the basement.
Oh, that was fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That was possibly one of the world's first interactive experimentation areas that you could run online. We had a spinny wheel that people could press a button on the screen when they felt that the thing would stop at the very bottom. And so the thing would keep spinning round. This was a CD on a motor.
Just press a keyboard.
Yeah, press a key on the computer, wherever you are in the world, and the thing would slow down with an arrow on it, and if that arrow pointed straight down, you were the winner. So whoever had been the nearest to that bottom line, right in the middle there, would be at the top of the leaderboard. It was kind of like a leaderboard situation.
Oh, and people had fun with that.
Oh, they did, yeah.
I got so close. Oh, I got it. Oh, shoot, it's totally
There were a
off.
few interactive things that you could play with on the website, and it was all live streamed. That was 2007, yeah.
And we had cameras set up with it. And we got some really strange pictures of the basements and things going on down there.
Yeah, we had the first psychomantium that we had made that was running live streaming as well.
A haunted mirror pointing at another haunted mirror, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I was working on a remote control car that you could trundle around to get a better look around the basement, wherever you wanted to drive it. That was another one I was working on. I did build the thing, but never got it wired up, as you might say, to the internet. That was a lot of fun, that. And we also did some good ITC stuff there with a camera pointed at
the television.
CRT television.
Yeah. And then, of course, the photo of your energy dump.
Oh, that one's the big one, yes. If I can find that picture, I'll post that on here. And that is, I'd completed Outrun. I got a few arcade games, and we'd put them in the garage. And I'd completed Outrun for the first time. It was the first arcade game I'd ever completed. Totally joyous. Now, in the picture, someone has screen capped from the live stream. When I was in there, I was in that garage.
Facing the back of the garage.
Facing the back of the garage. I was changing a light bulb in the middle of the garage. But in the mirror at the back of the garage, you can see the reflection of me at the other end of the garage turning the steering wheel of the Outrun.
While you
video
see
game.
Slider in real form in the same picture.
In the same picture, yeah. So how on earth that could happen? Well, it makes sense because that machine that I'm at, turning that wheel, might well be the captured moment of me completing my first ever arcade game.
Nothing else really happened in Moorhead as such.
Oh, can I just say that
Sure.
the two events there of my capture there of completing Outrun and of years pacing forwards and backwards in the flat because he was coming off drugs do prove that not all ghosts are dead people.
Yep.
Anyway.
And that's what I think about the haunting in Moorhead, because nobody died there recently. You know, you could say, well, back in Native American days and all, and they had Indian wars and, people died.
Well, in Native American days, they weren't wearing plaid shirts and work boots.
They got dysentery on their way to Oregon. Yeah.
Sure, yes, and died of dysentery.
But then in 2008, we moved down to Muskogee, Oklahoma, and that house had some news for us, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
One of the first days before we even moving stuff in, we opened all the windows to try to get some air going through. And all of a sudden, one of the windows slammed shut. And I said, if that's a spirit, do it again. And another window slammed shut.
It was within 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And they were proper slams too. It wasn't like it just sort of, you heard a creak or something.
Nope.
And these windows were, if you pulled the things up, they were staying up.
And they were old.
Yeah, and ever since when we used to pull the window up, it would stay. It wouldn't come flying back down again.
Yeah. And then one night I remember I was getting up to get a drink of water in the kitchen, and all the drawers were pulled out exactly the same distance.
That's wild.
It was like they were all 1 inch out, pulled out. The cupboards weren't messed with, but the drawers were all out.
Which reminds me of the cheese stuff. What's that called in a tub?
Parmesan cheese. Yes, that was a weird one too.
Yeah, we found that high up in a cupboard, and you don't put that in a cupboard.
I always
knew
keep
that.
the Parmesan in the refrigerator, and I could not find it for the heck of me. And Mark was, you just start looking around, and he opened the cupboard, and it was way up high in a cupboard on the top shelf.
He wouldn't put things there anyway.
No.
And that leads on to the
major one. I was out in the kitchen and I was preparing a microwave oven meal right in front of the microwave, and right next to the microwave is a toaster oven, and there's maybe 8 inches of room from the front of the counter to the back to where the front of the microwave is. So there wasn't a whole lot of room to make my meal in the first place. And after I cooked the meal, I took it out and I was going to head into the bedroom to watch TV while I ate, and Mark was just coming out of the bedroom, and what's it, about 7 steps to the kitchen?
Yeah.
So in the time that I turned around and went in the bedroom, we met at the door, and he was in the kitchen. He comes back a couple seconds later, and he's holding a gallon jug of milk, half full. And he said, "Did you leave this on the counter?" And I said, "No, I don't drink milk." I said, "Where was it?" And he said, "It was right in front of the microwave." And I said, "I just prepared a microwave meal, and it was not there." He shook it, and it was chunky, like it had been sitting out for 2 days in that hot Muskogee weather. The thing is the only reason I buy milk is for Mark to have it in his coffee.
And cereal.
So I only buy 1 gallon at a time. Mark opened the kitten refrigerator, and our gallon of milk was still in there.
Yeah, so where did this other one come from?
There was no time. We had a deep backyard, fenced backyard, that anybody could have run in, put that jug on, run out of our backyard.
Yeah, for what purpose?
For what purpose?
And within that 7 steps, that 1 minute or 2 minutes difference.
Less than 5 seconds from me leaving the kitchen to you going into it. That was the weirdest. And a couple more things that happened in Muskogee that I heard, but Mark didn't, because he sleeps like a stone.
Proverbial log.
Oh, yeah. And I would hear banging on the front door in the middle of the night. And our part of town got kind of shady by the time we left there. So the first time it happened, I was freaked out. I didn't do anything, but I listened to hear if anybody got off the porch, which I did not hear. The second time it happened, I actually went and looked, and there was nobody there.
Quite brave.
And there were, well, you know me, go facing down the dude with the gun.
Sure enough.
But anyway, and then I would hear running through the living room at night.
That's wild.
Yeah. Oh, didn't you see a little black gremlin type dude?
Yes.
Out in the beer bottle.
The beer bottle was another one. I put a beer bottle, no, it was empty as far as I remember, but I'd sat it down on the top of the cooker, and I came back into the room 2 or 3 minutes later, and this thing was a clear 45 degrees, balancing.
On the rim.
On the bottom, on the bottom edge of the bottle, it was 45 degrees. It should have fallen over. There was no reason and no way it could be at 45 degrees. Foolishly, I believe I simply picked it up, and I shouldn't. I should have waited to see what happened to that, to see whether it just fell back down on its own or what. I should have stayed still and just watched it, but I didn't. I think I was probably more in shock than anything.
Yeah.
I think if it would have fallen, it would have hit the ground. It could have smashed. It could have been a lot of pieces. So I just picked the thing up, but more of a natural impulse thing to do, really. But yeah, it was on a clear 45 degrees and possibly more leaning over. That was ridiculous.
Some of the things that happened not in the house, but while we lived in Muskogee, was Mark seeing the Civil War soldier at Fort Gibson.
Oh, yes, in the back window of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pressed up against it looking in the car.
And you could see it through the red on the brake light, right? It was because it was at night.
Yeah.
We also went to the Oklahoma City bombing site, and I know I'm really, really sensitive to, you could get me crying on a toilet paper commercial. Anyway, I was prepping myself for a whole block before I got there, and I was feeling it already, and I just kept saying, Julie, you know it's going to be hard. Just keep your cool, keep your cool. I could not. It was horrific, the feeling there. And then talk about the EVPs we got there.
Yeah, we got 2 clear EVPs, very, very clear, proper Class A's, not made up Class A's with filtering and everything. They were completely clear on audio recorder. We wish we hadn't got any, because we wish...
It was so sad.
Yeah, that all of those kids there would have been able to cross over, but no, we got 2 people. Well, one was a woman, I believe. I was talking and I said something about green, and then like an echo the woman said green, and it was as clear as that. But the better one, I suppose, would be the young child when we were ready to leave, and she said, don't forget me.
In that tone, don't forget me. That's
a haunting sound and something you don't want to record. The poor girl was still there. But she's obviously, intelligent, the rest of it. She's not replaying an event.
Yeah.
She's an active spirit.
And then the Joplin spook light.
Oh, yeah.
And this story was actually used on the Y-Files. He had requested if anybody had any experiences with shadow people, please write in. And he said he got over 3,000 submissions on the first day. And mine was one of the ones he chose, of only like 6 of them or so.
Yeah.
So the story goes that Mark and I went up to Joplin. Well, it's not exactly Joplin. It's outside of Hornet.
It's known as Joplin Spook Light.
Yeah, the Joplin Spook Light on the Hornet Road, and found the road, and I'm traveling down it, and I'm looking down in the rear view because I knew I was heading the wrong way, and I had the intention to find a way to turn around and point back the way we came. And so I'm looking for the light, not really seeing anything. And we found a tractor entrance for a field, where it's built up so the tractor can go into a field. And we turned around and parked in there. And behind us about, 1/8 of a mile or so, was a house that had a yard light that lit up the interior of our car. And it was storming out. It wasn't thunder and lightning so much as raining, just heavily. But Mark, like a man, needed to go pee, so we went outside.
Yeah, not being manly, just being a man, needed to pee.
Well, I mean, I'm saying that because a man can do that.
Right.
Okay. Without having to take care of stuff.
Having problems, shall we say.
Yeah.
Right.
So I said that with jealousy. Anyway, so he's out there. And he's just getting in the car. He opens the door. He said, I thought I heard somebody. And as he's opening the door, I look at him. And on the corner of my eye...
Well, wait a minute. I had heard somebody, I thought, behind the head that had been in front of me while I was there, taking a leak.
Yeah.
I heard people talking, which is pretty bizarre, saying it's pouring with rain. You're in the middle of nowhere down some country road with no lights.
Bar the yard light.
Bar that yard light, yeah.
And it was pouring rain. It made no sense to have it. But when I turned to look at Mark, out of the corner of my right eye, I could see. And picture these things coming in one at a time and standing next to each other, side by side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And they were 4 hat men, shadow people, that blocked the light out from that light 1/8 of a mile away. I turned the car on And we skedaddled. We were only there for about 3 minutes. We drove 100 miles in that pouring rain to see the Joplin spook light and left after 3 minutes because of the shadow people.
Very spooked out. I didn't actually see them, but you did, and I saw the look on your face, and we were not sticking around.
Nope. I won't mess with them. I don't think they're, as I said in the thing, I don't think they have anybody's good intentions in mind, and I choose not to be in the presence of them. So, and then we've moved here, and knock wood, nothing.
We don't seem to have brought anything with us.
No.
That's the fantastic side to that.
So now we can rest, relax, and create content, and hopefully get some stuff with you guys with us.
Yes, and hopefully this has prompted you to write your stories.
Oh, we would love to hear your stories.
What would be really nice is if you could even record them to audio, so we might play them to other people. Yeah. If people wanted to do that.
And you can send it to our email at
spiritedinvestigations@protonmail.com. But thank you very much for listening to our stories, and yes, we do look forward to hearing yours.
We hope we inspired you, interest you, and hope you will share your story with us too, because I love hearing other people's experiences.
See you next time.
Have a good time.